Go. All right, I'm going to call to order the Regional Governance Board of the Southwest Vermont Regional Technical School District for our regular meeting Monday, November 28, 2016. We do have a quorum present, so we will proceed with the agenda of the meeting. I want to welcome everybody for coming out this evening. The first item on our agenda is public comments, and we have this evening some public comments. I've asked Susan Summer to come in this evening and to explain a little bit of a dilemma that we're having with Habitat for Humanity. And it's best that we hear it right from her. We will not take any action on this evening. We'll take everything under advisement. We'll take it into consideration and discussion. And if need, we will go and make a decision that'll be announced at our next meeting. Okay? Susan, could you step up here to this microphone? And can you give us a rundown of what has transpired? And this is in relation to the building trades program and our building trades program participating with Habitat in building a house up on North Branch Street Extension.
Thank you, Jim. Good evening, everybody. I've met most of you before, so I'll fill all of you in on where we're at right now. First, I want to say that we're going to figure out how to make this work because it's the right thing to do. So despite any obstacles that we might be running into, I'm determined that we're going to overcome those obstacles. We had started talking with, when I say we, I'm talking about Bennington County Habitat for Humanity and the Career Development Center, started talking back in March, April, and May about partnering so that the students in the Building and Trades Division could build one of our two houses that we will be building in 2017. And eventually, when we were able to finally come back together, which was in the fall, around September of 2016, to discuss it once again and make it happen, we all agreed that we could make this project work. Bennington County Habitat for Humanity would pay for all the supplies that were needed, and the Building and Trades Division, under the instruction of Brian Kuhn, would do the actual building of one of our two houses. We're building our two houses on North Branch Street in the town of Bennington in 2017. And the Building and Trades Division was going to start with putting in the foundation this year. We have the funds to be able to carry us through into next year and pay for starting that project earlier. The issue of waiver and release of liability forms came up because whenever we work with volunteers on a Habitat build site, every single volunteer has to sign a waiver and release of liability form or they can't work on the build site. Those forms are devised by Lockton Affinity, which is the service provider of our insurance carrier, and we have our insurance through Habitat for Humanity International. There are 1,500 Habitat affiliates around the United States, and more than 400 of those have joined this particular Habitat insurance program, and our affiliate has always been a part of that program, so that's who we're working under. That relationship with Lockton Affinity and International was eventually purchased and is now run by Chubb Insurance Group, which I believe is spelled C-H-U-B-B. It's an acronym for something. Whenever we have students come under a particular age, they actually have to take the waiver form home to their parents. If they are not 18, they have to take the waiver form home and their parents have to review it and decide if they're going to sign it. For example, kids who go to the mountain campus through Burr and Burton Academy are helping on Jennifer Lane occasionally. They've all taken their waiver forms home and their parents have signed it, and then they come and build with us. Now they're building as volunteers on the site under our supervision. And then the issue came up about having the students in the Building and Trades Division with the CDC and also forestry and heavy equipment, because those wonderful folks have been out on the site as well helping on our North Branch Street development sign the waiver forms, including the instructors. That's what I was told by our insurance company, that anybody on the Habitat site, and it's land that we own on North Branch Street, involved in the building or even taking down of trees, which your forestry and heavy equipment department has done, would have to sign a waiver form. Before Thanksgiving, Lon McClintock, who represents Bennington County Habitat for Humanity in this particular instance, and Attorney John Cohn, who was working with the Career Development Center, talked about revising the waiver forms because you've got kids who are under 18 who are using power tools. And when we have, for example, the students come from the mountain campus, if you're 16 and under, you can't use power tools. You can't even be on a site if there's construction going on. That's if you're 15 and younger. So they send 16 and 17 and 18-year-old kids, and the 16 and 17-year-old kids can't use power tools and they can't be above 6 feet. These are all requirements through our insurance company. But they can come on site and help do construction. They can pick up a hammer and build, and they can put siding on it. They've done those things. Didn't make any sense to have that limitation in the waiver forms when we're working with the Career Development Center. So the lawyers I mentioned, Attorney McClintock and Attorney Cohen, in conjunction with working with our insurance company, changed the language so that that under 18 language wouldn't apply to the kids in the Career Development Center. And our insurance company was all right with that. There have been other programs where affiliates have worked with similar vocational schools and had to do that. And then the day before, Wednesday was the day before Thanksgiving. I think it was Tuesday evening. Jim sent me an email saying that the CDC didn't want to send these waiver forms home at all to the parents, and they didn't want them signing them. And so the question became, what do we do now? I've talked with our insurance company. They insist that the waiver forms have to be signed. I spoke with the legal department at Habitat for Humanity International. I talked with an attorney there just this evening, and he said that the waiver forms have to be signed. And he knew of one other situation where a vocational school was told, your kids are going to have to take the waiver forms home if they need their parents to sign them. And the school didn't want to do that, and so they were offered the opportunity to have an insurance policy, and we do have your insurance policy. Stephanie provided that to us. But to indemnify the local affiliate and Habitat for Humanity International for up to $2 million. And the school said, no, we don't want to do that. And so that was the one program where they didn't move forward. He said any other time, and he didn't give me numbers, that schools have partnered with Habitat affiliates, it's not been a problem signing the waivers. Now, I understand why it would be a problem signing the waivers, because if you have one kid, and Michael's explained this to me, if you send these forms home and one parent says, forget it, I'm not going to sign the waiver form, then you have a student who's expecting to be in a building and trades division who cannot participate, and that's absolutely ridiculous. So I agree with Michael, that's really the bottom line. I understand why you don't want to sign the waiver forms. I understand why Habitat International requires its affiliates to have the waiver forms signed, and why the insurance company requires it. I understand that up to a point. I was provided the language and I reviewed it for how the term volunteer worker is defined. I do not think this program under the CDC fits the definition of a volunteer worker for two reasons. First of all, the definition under the insurance policy says that the volunteer worker is donating their time. These students are not donating their time. If they don't come to class and show up and come and build wherever you've decided to build, then they're not going to get a good grade. They may fail and they're not going to pass. So I don't see that as a donation of time. The volunteer worker definition also says that a volunteer is acting under the supervision of the affiliate within the scope of work as defined by the affiliate. That is not true in this situation. This Career Development Center is building one of our two houses, and what Brian Kuhn does as the instructor and what the students under his instruction do is what's going to get the house built. Our involvement is that we're providing the land to build the house on. We've asked you if you would build this house for us. We are paying for everything for the subcontractors that Brian Kuhn will be contracting with, and we are paying for materials. I do not see that as meeting the definition of a volunteer worker. The attorney at Habitat International said, well, it's always nice to be able to look at language and use it for ulterior purposes, and that wasn't the purpose that the language was written for. They never took into account that there might be a school that would partner with Habitat. I don't find that to be a diligent answer. So I have a couple of suggestions. First of all, unless you're absolutely sure there's going to be one parent who isn't going to sign this waiver form, you might want to consider sending the waiver forms home. The second option is that we go ahead and put the foundation in, because the foundation's got to get in if you all want to keep building. We're running out of time to get a foundation in before it's too cold. And then our affiliate will work with Attorney McClintock to come up with a contract. This was the only way this lawyer could think to resolve the situation, is that we would enter into a contract with you. You would be the commercial, it would be like a commercial contract to have you build the house, which in truth I probably should have considered earlier anyway. It would have been good to probably have something in writing between what we expect of one another. We have nothing to do with it other than paying the bills. And then we'd have to have an indemnification clause as part of the contract, similar to what I mentioned earlier about adding international into it as well as our affiliate. And we would work to try to accomplish that as soon as possible so that the kids could get to what they need to do, which is building. I forwarded to Michael and James, I think you've seen it as well, Attorney McClintock's very reasonable, logical explanation of why he thinks these waivers really have no significance in this particular situation where we have students in the Career Development Center building a house for Habitat. And his conclusion, in a nutshell, is that they're under their own supervision. Habitat has nothing to do with what they do on the site. So a waiver form for acting as a volunteer really doesn't bear any weight because they're not volunteering and they're running the whole project themselves. That's basically what he said. It makes a lot of sense. But our responsibility as a Habitat affiliate is to figure out how to make this work and convince our insurance company and Habitat International that the way we perceive the language in the insurance documents and what the Career Development Center is doing is, in truth, the reality of this situation, and the waivers should not apply under these circumstances. So I see those as two methods of trying to resolve the issue. If you're adamant that sending the waiver forms home isn't going to work because there will be at least one person who won't sign, I suggest that we consider the contract resolution part of it. If that means that it's going to take a little while and we need to get a foundation in now so then you can move forward and build, we're going to talk about that tomorrow at Habitat about getting that foundation put in. It's got to be put in anyway. We're building that house next year, one way or the other. And then we can see where to take it from there. So are there any questions?
Anybody have any questions of Susan on the matter?
If something happens to a student, whose insurance does it go to?
It goes to the school insurance. Okay, then the school insurance will do their investigation into the situation, and then they'll make a decision as to a settlement or not.
So I did call, just so for clarification, I did call and speak with someone from VSBA about it. Our insurance distinguishes between like the co-op arrangement or an internship apprentice program, or and what occurs in normal curriculum, and this would fall under normal curriculum because it's not like they're going out under the supervision of someone. So in this case, we do not have, well, what you say is accurate. We don't have a no fault insurance policy. So if a child slipped and fell on their own accord on, you know, on this site, it doesn't guarantee that our insurance company would pay for the medical payments or things like that. We do have, you know, a catastrophic plan for events, but it's not, he couldn't give me a yes or no answer as to like would our kid automatically be covered in that scenario. Is that?
What we do know, though, that we do fall under the curriculum, that this is associated with the curriculum, and therefore the insurance company recognizes that.
Right.
And that we would be covered by the insurance company, the student's insurance company, while they're on site. Is that correct?
No, that's not necessarily correct. It's a case-by-case basis, and because, just because that they're like covered, it's, I mean, if you think about it in the course of a day here, if someone fell in the hallway, it wouldn't, we have insurance, and
Right.
but if they fell, but it doesn't mean that if it was our fault, then our insurance would cover it. But it's not a no-fault situation. So in the event that a child's on a work site, or a student is on a work site and they're injured because they're horsing around, maybe, he couldn't give me a yes or no scenario.
So it's not a guarantee.
It's not a guarantee that someone who is injured on a work site would automatically be covered by our insurance.
Is there any type of insurance?
Because it's during the day. It's like a student in school. I mean, we have
Is it
insurance.
any different than what we normally do now, and what we were doing when we were
Yeah.
building our
It-
own house? I mean, on our own property, is what I'm saying, is it, the
What's the
insurance
difference?
company, we use the same insurance company before, and so that clause, I'm saying, why should it come into play now?
It's not, it was more a distinction. My question was exactly what Jackie asked. In the event that someone is injured on this job site, would, you know, our insurance cover that? And he said, I can't, you know, not necessarily, because it's not, it's not a no-fault insurance policy. We have a no-fault catastrophic policy, but we don't have, you know, he said if you wanted a no-fault policy, it would cost you $3 million to cover, you know, every injury that occurs within the school district.
What kind of insurance are we talking about? I mean, quite frankly, and it goes back to the discussion about volunteers versus actual contract employees. If they're not volunteers, then I would say they're employees. Employees, by law, have to have workman's comp.
We have insurance. I'm just saying
What
that
kind
it's
of
not.
insurance?
Well, it's-
General liability?
Yes,
Health
we have-
insurance?
Yes, but it's not necessarily a workers' comp policy. It's written
Right.
for, because it's written for
Correct.
the educational realm. And our curriculum covers more than just a classroom. So we all know that. But the reality is that I just want to be clear that I can't confidently say that in any injury on site, or it's the same, or in this school, would automatically be covered by our insurance. And that's
No.
that was what he was saying. It's no different than, situation isn't any different than any other event.
Any other insurance claim. That's
Right,
that's
exactly. And I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't like oh, don't worry, we've got it covered, because it seems to be gray areas in insurance, and I just
There
wanted
could be a
to.
case where it wouldn't be.
Right.
I, as the insurance company, wouldn't pay it anyway. I'd say that's why you got workman's comp, folks, don't you?
Yeah, but we're not, these students are not being employed, so they're not covered under workman's comp.
They're covered.
It'd be nice to know that is the truth, first of all. Second of all, if you're talking a general liability insurance that the school has to protect itself from any injuries and stuff like that, I don't know what the issue is with not allowing them to be named as additionally insured and give them the certificate
They
holder of
already
the
are.
insurance.
We already have done that.
Then what's the problem?
That piece of it, there isn't. They're
Right.
named as they are asking for students to sign a waiver saying that in the event that there is an accident on this site, that they will not sue.
I thought Susan was saying all that they cared about is that they were indemnified, that they had a
Additional policy.
additional policy. And all that is, you put additional insured on our, which is, if you got a $2 million policy and they're the certificate holders and they're additionally insured, anything happens, they're covered. That's the way it is with my insurance policies.
and I can review I mean, I just found out the 2 million piece
Right.
short, like right before this, so I can review what we've sent them to our policy limits, and if the board feels that they want to up the policy in order to meet that, but we have provided them an insurance binder, essentially.
I don't know what the issue is. I have no idea what the issue is.
The issue is with Habitat International, our insurance carrier, they insist that the waiver and release of liability forms be signed by all people who are working at any Habitat site.
Understood that, but then I thought you said the exception was you would accept a
Yes.
certificate.
Yes, well, there's two parts to that. In order to have an indemnification certificate, we're also encouraged to have an actual contract with the school. So you guys are basically the contractors on the job, which is how we're treating this anyway.
Right.
And I think it's wise to have the contract. And then we still have to present it to our legal department at Habitat International and to the Chubb Insurance Group for their blessing. This attorney I spoke with thought it might work, but he couldn't guarantee that it would.
Just so, what we've provided is we have $5 million for each occurrence for
Yep.
general liability, $1 million for damage to rented premises. This is our entire
Yeah.
policy that's
It's general
dropped in.
liability insurance.
Right, exactly. Like our workman's comp is $1 million and each accident, or, there's $5 million for the rest of it. It's,
So,
I don't know why, I don't know what they're barking up the tree about, quite frankly.
what I'm trying to make sure you understand that if we're at least taking the property and this career development center is doing everything, why is it that Habitat is saying, claiming it just because that land is yours?
Right.
And so the waiver should be to waive the property for us to build a building on free of you until we release it.
We can't do that under these circumstances. I'm pretty sure that we cannot, because we own the land on North Branch Street where we're building a total of 6 houses, and yours is going to be the second of the 6. And so that would mean somehow you'd have to take over ownership of this little lot that's part of a larger development. And maybe that's an option, but I don't know that it would matter ultimately.
Well, what we're trying to do is say we're free. We're building it, the career development center is building it together. We're just gonna build it and you take it,
Right.
as opposed to us building it and putting it out like we used to do it for
Yes.
sale. So we're saying you shouldn't have anything to do with anything besides finding a way to turn the property over to us for the sole purposes of building a building to release to Habitat when it's done. That's what should be happening.
We're not going to solve this evening.
Yeah.
We're going to have to go back to our attorneys. We're going to have to go to our insurance companies, and we're going to have to gather some more information. And hopefully we'll have that ready by the next meeting, and we'll move forward.
When is your next meeting?
Our next meeting will be the third Monday in December,
the 19th.
the 19th.
Okay.
We do think, that, Susan, that you probably should move forward with that foundation.
Okay.
That has to go in
Yep.
before the weather changes too drastically. But we can obviously need to take some more time and do some more research as to how we can make this happen, if at all possible. We've never been in this dilemma before. We've built numerous buildings around the town just recently. We've completed something at Lake Perrin, major project there. I worked for Habitat and never had to sign a release form. So
That's not good.
I'm a little discouraged as well.
Yeah.
But I do want to see it go forward, and I'm sure the board likes to see us involved with community work like this that's going to help the community.
Did
So-
you have a contract with Lake Perrin for that pavilion?
No, we did
Okay.
not.
You know,
Nor did we with the homeless shelter when we just recently
Okay.
did some
I was
work
hoping
with
there
that.
might be something to work off of, but,
No, it looks like we're going to have to probably start from scratch.
all right.
Look at a contract with the insurance indemnity clause. That's what we'll go to work on.
Good, good.
I'd also ask Mike to get a hold of Department of Labor and make sure that we're on even ground here.
Okay.
If for some reason they're no longer called volunteers and they're called employees, we may be in trouble there too.
We'll get that clarification.
We're actually having to look at the same issue
Yeah.
because of the way it's defined in the state of Vermont.
Susan, thank you
Yes.
for coming down this
Well,
evening
thanks for
from
your time.
Manchester
Thank you,
and
Susan.
and explaining everything to us. And I do want to tell you that we will continue to work the effort.
So, yep, so will we.
Good, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Good, I know. It is, it is, it is.
The CDC got a little bar.
We have, is our presentation, no, he is here, yep. We have a presentation which we asked for the, right? So, if you recall, we asked that the new teachers come in and do a presentation on their program of offering, and we have that for law enforcement this evening. James is with us. So we're going to ask him to step up to the mic and give us his presentation this evening as well. Want to come right up here?
Hello. Hi. Good evening. Hi. So, my name is James Gully Jr. I've recently been employed as your law enforcement instructor within the CDC program. To tell you a little bit about myself, I am native born of Bennington. Most of you look very familiar to me. And I attended Mount Anthony. I went off to Castleton State College and obtained my bachelor's degree for criminal justice, minor in history. Subsequently, advanced my education in Norwich University, obtaining my master's in public administration. To go back, in 2003, at the time, Chief Richard Gauthier employed me as a patrolman for the town of Bennington. In the meantime, within the 14 years that I worked for the town of Bennington, I worked in many levels, that being mid-level management for 8 years. Also, I had quite a bit of involvement with the purchase of illegal narcotics. I worked undercover with the Vermont State Police in the Narcotics Investigation Unit for a period of time. Also working hand in hand with federal law enforcement agencies such as the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and the FBI, the DEA, so on and so forth. There are some circumstances and incidents that I cannot talk about because those cases have not been completed. However, it was a blast. I was very honored to be a part of the team. It's a very close-knit team, and that goes for all law enforcement. But to go into a brief discussion about what I'm doing within the CDC program, I'm very particular about grammar. Law enforcement, we have to articulate ourselves extremely well. You have to paint that picture. Sometimes we are not always as fortunate to have video or photographs documenting the circumstance at hand. So I am instructing our students to be very articulate with the pen. And in doing so, to change gears from the previous instructor, I brought back the computers. Some of my students kicking and screaming opt not to sit down and to type. However, I can only articulate to them that it is extremely important for these students who are getting into the law enforcement field to be able to write, express yourself properly, and to do so correctly and within the means of the law. So in the process, I have also purchased with my own money what I used in Norwich was a program or software called Grammarly. maybe some of you have heard it, I know the CDC has. What it is you complete your affidavit of probable cause or your investigative report, and then you put it into the software. Well, it's almost like a red pen. And my mother was my red pen. My sergeant, Cam Grandy, was my red pen. And this eliminates that human error of the red pen, where it catches everything and it allows the student to see what they're doing wrong. Vocabulary enhancement. Also, if I task them with creating a project, it catches plagiarism. So this was brought forth to me by my capstone instructor from Norwich University, her name is Geraldine Wade, and she accidentally told me that she grades my papers through Grammarly. So law enforcement clue, I went out as quickly as I could and I purchased it. So with that being said, my seniors, we handle on-scene sites. I put forth scenario-based circumstances that I've experienced in my career up to date. I make them, right from the very beginning, handle the scene, how to speak with people, how to diffuse a situation. Not only that, how to process evidence, how to properly document it through the chain of custody. Everything that I'm doing and I'm explaining to them is done exactly how an officer would do when you would present it to the court. So the state's attorney, Erica Marthage, Deputy State's Attorney Robert Plunkett, Alex Burke, so on and so forth, they could prosecute these cases. It's in Bennington police format, and I've modified some of the paperwork so that it involves the CDC, so that this isn't Bennington police, of course. But nonetheless, they are presenting case work that is worthy of the state's attorney's office. If this were a real circumstance, it would be a conviction. I know some defense attorneys would say otherwise, however. But nonetheless, up to date, we have just recently concluded rioting. Just today, we have discussed and complete investigative reports on the offense of stalking and aggravated stalking. We've gone as far as to do more vehicle stops, explain radar. We've gone as far as to investigate a homicide where you have a body on the floor, and so on and so forth. So it can get quite extensive, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. However, currently to date, I still am in the field. I'm employed by Chief Hall through the Town of Manchester Police Department. He has tasked me with using my strengths in the narcotic field within the Town of Manchester to effectively and efficiently deter the narcotic distribution and trafficking within the Town of Manchester. And whatever I can use to pull in back into the program to teach the students, I do, within reason, of course. So that's all I have
Questions?
for now.
Yes.
Can we reimburse Mr. Gully for this?
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
No,
Absolutely.
Well, that was, I mean, my question,
Yeah.
it should be the center buying software and equipment for.
Well,
classroom.
my wife uses it sometimes too. She works for Arlington. But what I do is I offered it to all of my students because they do submit papers regarding other classes, and some of them do. They come in and they say, Mr. Gully, may I use your software for a social studies paper or whatever paper they so choose to have reviewed, and I certainly come on in, take the time, here's my desk, go for it.
It's certainly appropriate that we are adequately licensed for the software, so we have no
Oh, okay.
problem with purchasing it and getting
Right.
you the
Okay.
adequate licenses for all your computers on that program. Anyone else? Any questions?
I commend you, because I'm going to commend you for the grammar. Unfortunately, that's probably my weakest thing in my whole career. But it's just a little story that I was reminded when I went to Vermont Tech. I was in the pre-tech and had to take English. And it's like, You know, I took English for 4 years in high school. Why the hell do I got to take English? I'm going to go on to be a technician in the civil engineering, so I don't need that stuff. And you don't know how much they beat it into your head that if you can't tell somebody else what's on your mind, it's useless. So you really got to be able to articulate what you're trying to get across to people. So I commend you for being very strong on the grammar. I wished I was more that way myself.
Well, I played defense attorney in the class, and I get a lot of shrugs and,
Yeah.
But when I talk to them and I say, listen, you're going against William Wright or David Silver, so on and so forth, who have impeccable educations and they can spot the tiniest loophole, they're going to drive a train through it if you allow them. And you have to make those split-second decisions, and you have very limited time in order to draft up your formal documents. You have to do so with such accuracy. And I push them to a point where I want them to be prepared for college, because I know when they get to college, some may not, some may go towards a different direction. So be it. But I want them to be prepared. At least I can look at myself and say that I did my best, because we do go over APA, not only MLA but APA, because APA is what they're going to expect or referencing in college. So.
Well, we commend you for your efforts. You're working in a time when law enforcement's under difficult scrutiny, and it's got to be a task. But the things you've outlined to us tonight, the skills that you're talking about, writing skills, computer skills, personal interaction, public interaction skills, those are all critical to us, and we support you 100%.
Thank you, sir.
Those are the things that every other job calls soft skills.
Yes, that's what we call it.
And kids come in without the soft skills, and you're preparing them for those things.
And we're working on those. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Our students are fortunate to be taking your course.
Yes.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Get back to the agenda here. Our next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The minutes from the RGB full board meeting October 17th, 2016, they're posted in the Dropbox. Can I have a motion to accept those?
So moved.
Moved by Francis and seconded by Ricky. Any questions or concerns? All in favor then of accepting the minutes as presented, please signify by raising your hand, please. And that is unanimous, Barb. Payroll warrants 9, 10, 14, 10, and 10, 16.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ricky and seconded by Francis. Any discussion on the payroll warrants? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand on this as well. That's unanimous as well. Vendor warrants 10, 15, and 10, 17.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I did take some time and went through all of those. There's nothing out of the ordinary in those. Any further discussion on that? Then all in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Cash flow statements are there, our revenue and expenses, and everything is up to date and looks fine in that area. Committee reports, Finance Committee.
Yes, Finance Committee. We've met, I believe, twice since our last meeting. We went over several different scenarios. I believe tonight we have come up with what we think is almost the budget we're going to go with. There might be a little bit of tweaking on it. I believe that for the 19th of December meeting, we should have a budget for a presentation to the full board and hopefully their approval. Anything else you people would like to throw in the mix? I will say one thing, we've had a real good turnout of people coming to the meeting and giving their 2 cents. It's very meaningful to have that kind of response.
We are planning on having that presentation by our financials people next meeting.
Right.
For approval. Is there anything from policy?
No meeting.
No meeting?
No meeting.
And Ed Committee did not meet as well. Okay. Action items. We have a retirement. And that's, give us a rundown on that, Mike.
Sure. In your Dropbox there, under action items, there is a retirement letter. I can get to it. From Debbie Carey, who works in our business office. She is retiring effective January 5th. You may have seen her job posted in the local newspapers as well as online. Debbie gave us notification a couple of weeks ago. Debbie's worked in school districts in the area for well over 20 years. And we really appreciate her dedication and time here at the CDC, as well as previously at the SVSU in the central office and other local establishments. So she'll be missed dearly by everyone here at the staff. And we wish her well in retirement.
Debbie's always been a hard worker as long as I've known her in the school system, and she will be missed. She's done an excellent job for us. We appreciate her work. So we need to accept that letter of resignation. Can I have
So
a motion?
moved.
Second.
Moved by Ricky and seconded by Francis. All those in favor then of accepting the retirement letter from Debbie Carey, please signify by raising your hand. So everyone. Policies for approval. We talked about these at the last meeting. Policy 4450C, the employee conflict of interest, and 3150C, the travel reimbursements.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ricky and seconded by Francis. There's been no changes since they've last been presented. These are in keeping with the requirements of, I think it's the federal government, right? Am I correct? Yeah, so that we are in compliance. And I'd like then, if there's any further discussion, if there isn't any further discussion, then we vote on that. All those in favor of accepting both those policies, please signify by raising your hands. Unanimous. All right, superintendent's report.
Good evening, everybody.
Missed it. Thanks, sir.
I'm going to start my report by turning over to Meg to report on adult education.
Good evening. This week we have our review by the Board of Nursing that will happen on Thursday. An evaluation for our classroom as well as the course itself. So we're gearing up for that. Also, the LNA class will be testing within the next couple of weeks for their licenses. Next week, we have a culinary course that's going to start. It's cake decorating for the holidays, so if anyone's interested, give us a call. I've also met with folks that used to teach in the adult ed program, and they've been away from it for a while, but they're now coming back. They'd like to offer classes in Arlington as well as Manchester. So I think, just like the school day, I think we have to think outside of the box and see, where the needs are and what areas we can help out in. Also, switching gears, our guidance coordinator is working hard in organizing the 8th grade tours. Those will happen next week. He's getting a good turnout, not just with Mount Anthony, but also Arlington and BBA. So I think that's good for us as well as good for the students to see what we offer and to be able to see it before they schedule their classes for next year. That's important. And I think that's it.
Meg, we've noticed in the paper you've been advertising for CDL instructors as
Yep.
well as welding instructors. Can you give us an idea how that's going?
Yeah, the CDL instructor, I've gotten a few applications for that. I've also been working with the motor vehicles, Vermont State Motor Vehicles, in order to figure out if someone isn't certified in the state of Vermont to teach CDL, what needs to happen. Because I have gotten some interest from just across the border in New York State.
Okay.
But I'll be giving you more information on that at the December meeting. The welding, I'm waiting on some curriculum from one gentleman in particular, and I have a couple of other applications for the instructor. So,
Good.
you know, the plan is to line up the instructor and then figure out in the community where we can go. You know, whose space we can use, because that's going to be part of the, you know.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
that's part of the plan, is to
Yep.
find a shop where we can conduct the welding.
Yep, I've
Okay.
also, because of those ads, we've had people emailing or calling the office in regards to, you know, when are the courses going to start? So I think that's a good sign.
Yeah. Good. Very good.
Thank you, Meg. Meg mentioned the 8th grade tours, December 7th and 8th, for our school. We do those every year as a reminder. They've proven one of our best events for recruitment for students entering the 9th grade into our intro classes. As started a new tradition last year, students arrive on campus, complete their tour at the CDC and go to Mount Anthony High School, if they're Mount Anthony students, and sign up for classes that they're interested in the following year. So they're already on site, it's fresh in their mind, and they do, as of last year, the top 10 choices for their intro classes, if you will, both at Mount Anthony and the CDC. And we see return on that big time. Almost all of our intro classes are full, if not then some. So that's very good. As part of the Finance Committee meeting tonight, Education Committee as well, you know, we may be looking to offer additional intro classes next year based on interest. Not only here on site, but with our continued strong partnership in Arlington and the North Shire, there seems to be a strong interest in expanding our medical professions program in some way, whether that be with a specialty in EMT, LNA, we haven't figured that exactly out yet, but an expansion somehow of med professions. And again, that'll be hosted probably at Arlington High School next year. That will put Arlington with pre-law, forensics, and a medical professions course that are CDC courses hosted at Arlington High School. Meg is working on that in the North Shire with adult education. I see great things happening with our partnership with the North Shire, which we've talked about, you know, expanding for a long time. For the 17 years I've been here, we've talked about it. And, you know, we tried it out as really a test last year to see if it would work, and it got great reviews. And so we're continuing to forge ahead with those partnerships, I think, as we should. So in spirit with that, 2 weeks ago, I had a look at my calendar, the Arlington High School principal, Tim Stewart, spent an afternoon down here with us at the CDC touring our facilities, interacting with his students from Arlington High School. It's a reminder that the students that come here do come from other schools, and we are a mixing pot of students. I think it was very interesting for those students to see their principal in our facility. You know, it was a good reminder for us that they are our students, but they're other people's students as well. So Tim spent the afternoon here with us, and in kind, the following week, I spent the afternoon at Arlington High School touring their facility and spending time there with our pre-law instructor, Bruce, who's teaching at Arlington during his time. And so it's going to continue to be a growing relationship with the North Shire. I think that was great for both Tim to come down and see the center, and tour it, and also for me to go see the students that come here during their time in their home school at Arlington. I know that I'm planning on going to the Arlington School Board meeting to talk about our partnership, our CDC partnership with Arlington, and I think that Tim's probably going to come to this school board to talk about his experiences in partnership with us. So those are all very good things to report. Also, if you did not see it in the newspaper, it was actually in Saturday's paper, our CDC culinary students placed third in the New England Culinary Classic. So I'd like to congratulate James Cucini of Bennington, Megan Held of Pownell, and Bradley Mead of Arlington, who finished third at the state competition. They each received a professional knife set and a $2,000 scholarship to NEC. In this year's creation, I'm going to read this like I did last year, so I won't mess it up. That I create a 3-course meal in 1 hour consisting of fall harvest soup, pork medallions with an apple cider glaze, braised kale, winter squash, and crepes made with their choice of apples, pumpkin, heavy cream, mascarpone, cheese, and spices. And it was a team competition. They all had to work together in this time frame to produce this dish. And so for the period of about a week, I know that the ventilation is pumped in my office because all I could smell was pork medallions and apple cider glaze, but it was good. So it was about presentation and team working. It wasn't just about cooking the food. And so we're really proud of them, so congratulations to them. Also 2 weeks ago, if you don't know, I'm going to remind everybody that we are under our NEASC evaluation review this year. We are going to continue with NEASC as our accrediting body, as we should. We are still working with SRAB. In fact, Linda Jackson, who you've met at least on the telephone, and we've worked with for the past 2 years, was here and spent 3 days with us, helping us prep for getting us started for our sub-evaluation process for NEASC. All the standards have changed. The old report that we have, it's out the window. The standards are not even the same anymore. It's actually a much more rigorous accreditation than it had been in the past. It's a lot of work. Every faculty member is assigned one of 7 committees that they're meeting weekly on to identify standards. Some committees have 5 or 6 standards, some have 16 standards to start the process of this accreditation. It is a year-long review with the accreditation team coming this time next year to spend a week with us, essentially a whole school week with us, to review the documentation that we've prepared to determine our continued accreditation with the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. So it is quite an endeavor. We are only the second tech school in Vermont to be scrutinized under the new standards. Not Northwest Technical Center, North Country Tech Center just finished their review last year. Their full report will be out very soon. They were the first school that went to undergo the new standards. We'll be the second. So it's been a good process, I think. It's going to bring forward what we do well, what we can improve upon, and where we're going in the future with our school. So it's all good. And that's my report, unless there are questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Mike, I also noticed that we have some openings in the posted in the banner for employment opportunities here, and you did mention that the accounts payable and payroll clerk is posted.
Yes.
We have a LNA instructor position posted.
Program administrator, yes.
Program administrator.
Yep.
And is there another that I'm missing? Just those two? Okay. Just to let the public know that we do have openings for employment here at the Career Development Center, and you can find those posted in the Bennington banner.
And on our website.
And on our website, right. As far as my report, I'm going to go back to what we discussed earlier with Susan and Habitat for Humanity. I'm going to reiterate that we're going to do the best to try to make this work, but it will take some work. We're going to have to do some work with our insurance company. We're going to have to do some work with our attorneys. Now, unfortunately, our attorney represents Habitat for Humanity. So because we cannot use the same, we do have another attorney online that we're consulting with. Right. And we'll look at this, what was it called? What type of contract?
Turnkey contract.
Of developing somewhat of a turnkey contract with an additional insurance clause in there. This probably is opening the floodgates. It could be for other programs. So it's good probably that we go down this road and make sure that we cover all our bases, because it's liable to crop up in other programs and in other areas as well. So it's best that we do our research, and hopefully I'll have something for you by the next meeting on that. Okay. That's all I have. We do not have any executive session planned for this evening. Is there any other business of this board that anyone would like to bring about?
We adjourn.
Francis moves, we adjourn, and Ricky seconds it. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming out this evening.